Jeff Rosenstock, Hellmode album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Mr. Jeff Rosenstock, singer, songwriter, modern pop punk master, and I'm a Long Island boy. I grew up here, and being a part of Jeff's music has just, it's a rite of passage, growing up on Long Island and being into punk, whether it be his early stuff with the Arrogant Sons of Bitches, or Bomb the Music Industry, or the dozens of other projects that he has, dabbled in over the years. There's quite a few, but around the time of the early 2010s, Jeff went out and started putting out some solo stuff. I was getting older, Jeff was getting older, I was curious, and he put out his I Look Like Shit mixtape, and I honestly thought, sorry to say, I thought it sounded like shit. I felt like this little project of his here just did not play to any of his strengths. It was a little too rough around the edges, almost to the point where I just, I gave up on his solo stuff entirely. But around the time of his We Cool album, I thought Jeff was starting to turn around and really do something special. This album was a great, energetic, super catchy blend of power pop, punk rock, indie rock, and more. Jeff sort of reinvented himself on this album as a, aging slacker in the punk industry that didn't know what the hell he wanted to do with his life. And me, approaching 30 at the time, said, yeah, I resonate with that. A little bit too much. And his follow-up album, Worry, it's a modern masterpiece. If you're into modern punk of any sorts, go check it out. Now, by the time his post album came out, Jeff was on cruise control, for better and for worse. Not saying that this was a bad album, it's actually quite good, but this time around, I felt there were a few more snoozers on the album. A little bit more than what I had grown to know from Jeff's quality output. But I did really enjoy his 2020 album, No Dream. Actually, I rated it a strong 7 at the time, but as the year went on, all I could think of was, wow, I underrated this thing. It is just a frantic, caffeinated, very heady album for Jeff, but a really, really solid one. And while initially an April Fool's Day prank, his Ska Dream reinterpretation of No Dream does exist, and it's a lot better than it needs to be. Needless to say, Jeff's music means something to me. It means quite a bit to me. He's been someone that's been a part of my life for quite some time. And whenever he drops an album, I get excited. And hearing these singles, I thought they were okay. And overall, this album is decent. When Jeff is on, though, this guy can put out some pop punk and punk rock like nobody else in the business right now. Will You Still You, this album's intro. This is the track right here. Subtle bass riff, super emotional performance by Jeff. It's just a fantastic intro to this album's sound. And it does pick up into what I would consider the modern Jeff Rosenstock sound. It's very energetic, very pop punk. It is in all ways exactly where I want to hear him. It's energetic, it's so catchy, and the repeated line of "Will you still love me after I fucked up" can be used as a mission statement for any of his albums. Liked You Better when I first heard it as a single. I thought it was a little too straightforward for my liking, but it really is a great track. It's so charming, it's super catchy, all in all it is armed with Jeff's very love-lorn and cynical lyrics. Doubt, also hearing it as a single initially, it took some time to grow on me. I wasn't really feeling it at the time. It's a little bit more of a pensive tune from Jeff, which I'm not opposed to, but this is very far from where he's been. This track is over 4.5 minutes. But Jeff completely brings his A-game in the songwriting department. And maybe not the blast of energy that I expected to hear on this album. Every single one of these verses is just like a big old pressure cooker ready to pop. And we are rewarded with a very simple but very effective chorus. It's maybe not what I expect to usually hear from Jeff, but I have come around to it. It is a really great single, and the final minute and a half, which is much noisier, is just awesome. And Future is Dumb, for a deep cut, look no further. This may be one of the best tracks here. I love the rumbling, just throttling riff, and just how passionate Jeff sounds. And you know what, I'm just gonna say it, this is probably the least DIY sounding Jeff Rosenstock album. He's got that full studio, and it sounds like it throughout this album, but this track in particular really takes advantage of it and just meshes with his sound so well. It's a hell of a track, super catchy, while just, remaining just as cynical and apathetic as you would expect a Jeff Rosenstock track. But I do have to point out, there are certainly some very iffy, low energy moments that just, I don't know, just a little bit more than I expect on a Jeff album. Like Head, for example, early on this album. What is this? I appreciate the wild energy and very powder keg feel to this track. I really do, but it feels like it's a little phony. From a songwriting stance, this is so bottom of the barrel, it's not even funny. This just sounds like a track that Jeff really wanted to get some energy pumping into this album. And there is a mid-album slump here that is just so boring. Like Soft Living, for example. Once again, another very long track. This one is almost 5 minutes, which I'm fine with. And lyrically, it's kind of par for the course for Jeff. There's nothing wrong with it. But this sluggish pace is just so boring, and Jeff's super low energy performance on this track, it just sounds bored and not in his usual kind of cool slacker way either. And it's not like he can't do a slower tune. Blast Damage Days, anybody? When You're Alive? Hellmode, I heard this single a while back, and I did not like it, and I still really don't. I mean, I've always defended Jeff's slower tunes and his ballads. I think they're usually unexpectedly really good. But this is just way too light and really forgettable. And Life Admin is just tough to sit through. I mean, I don't know what made Jeff want to do this sort of quaint, jangly, sweet ballad. I mean, lyrically, yes. Very much so a Jeff Rosenstock track. Come on. But everything else about this track just gets on my nerves more than anything. Thankfully, though, Jeff brings his A-game to the finale of the album and really ends off on a high note, like I Wanna Be Wrong, for example. This is an energetic, punky, explosive punk tune with a really great sing-along hook. Here, Jeff doesn't sound like he's trying too hard. This sounds like him on cruise control, but like in the best way. It's snarky, it's poignant, it's super catchy. What more can you ask for? And while I was a little worried about the strummed riff on Graveyard Song at first, he actually does really great with this tune. It's got that burning passion. This isn't the most explosive track here, but it has a whole mess of heart. And every time this chorus rolls around, it is simply put just what I show up for. And the sheer anger and emotion in the final moments is, wow, it is just great. And Three Summers, this album's 7-minute finale, may be the best track here. This track has arguably the most memorable riff on this entire album, and I love the scuzzy production. It just sounds so raw, and Jeff backs that up with easily maybe his most passionate performance on this entire album. And I do have to point out, and I should have mentioned it earlier, there's a lot more synth work on this album. It does show him kind of going more in the power pop direction of albums like We Cool, which is fine by me. This finale is a hell of a track all around. This is a very solid album from Jeff Rosenstock. I feel like some of the lesser moments are some of his worst tracks in a while, though, and I can't overlook like the energy on some of these tracks, especially in the midway point. Woof! It is really rough to get through, especially for a long-time fan like me. But overall, Jeff does his best Jeff Rosenstock impression. He does, sound like he's on cruise control on a lot of these tracks, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I'll continue to check out his stuff. But this is probably one of his weaker albums in a while. But still, when he's on, he's most certainly on, and I'm feeling a very, very, very light 7 on this album. But let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.